Hello, everyone. I am Patrizia Cavazzoni, and I am the Director of the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research at FDA. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here today to be able to provide a short introduction on what I see as important themes when it comes to product quality, shortages, and inspections. Let me now move to my presentation. As you know, shortages are an increasing problem globally. And as we look at the causes of shortages, as you can see on the slides, over 60% are due to product quality problems at the manufacturing level. Now let's look at some metrics. These charts are coming from the recently issued annual report on shortages that is created by CDER every year. Now, if you look at the trends on the chart on the left-hand side, the work that we do at CDER continues to prevent the vast majority of shortages. If we look at those numbers between 2021 and 2022, there's actually been a slight decrease, but we are still pretty much on trend compared to previous years. If you look to the right-hand side, you will notice that the number of shortages has increased in the US by about 20% between 2021 and 2022. Now, the number is far from being an all-time high, which was actually in this chart was reached in 2011. However, we have seen an uptick in the number of shortages over the past year between 21 and 2022. And what we're also seeing is some of the shortages are more complex, tend to last longer, and they're also more challenging and take more effort to mitigate and more time to completely resolve. Now, why are we seeing these shortages? We know that there is overall a shortfall of manufacturing capacity globally. And particularly for the US, we are seeing some limits to the manufacturing capacity when it comes to critical drugs, and particularly sterile injectable drugs. And what we're seeing fundamentally is that there are some deeply rooted and longstanding economic reasons for this manufacturing capacity shortfall, including the lack of incentive for manufacturers to manufacture drugs over the market demand so that they have a safety buffer in case some disruptions in the supply chain were to happen. And as we know that there's many potential causes of disruption, such as climate events, hurricanes, as well as geopolitical concerns, or as of late, we have seen financial pressures tied to these sort of economic factors that are impacting the generic industry, leading to firm bankruptcies or closure of manufacturing sites. Let me now switch to a recent example of shortages. On this slide, I am showing the 16 oncology drugs that are currently in shortage as of May 2023. These drugs represent some essential medicines that are used for treatment across multiple cancers. As I'm sure that you have seen in the difficult to miss headlines in the United States and globally, these shortages in oncology drugs have created some major challenges in the treatment of people with cancer. Why? Because among other things, we are seeing a shortage of Cisplatin and Carboplatin, which are two oncology drugs, very old drugs that are available as generics that are essential in the treatment regime for very important treatments for solid tumors. anywhere from triple negative breast cancer to lung cancer to pancreatic cancer. And so the lack of availability of cisplatin has also led to an impact on the use of carboplatin, because there has been a switch to an increase in demand of carboplatin as a result of the shortage of cisplatin. Why did we see the shortage? Well, it's a scenario that we have seen in the past. A firm that was responsible for over 50% of the cisplatin supply had some major quality issues and decided to shut down production, leading to these shortages. Now, what we do in situations where we have concerns about the quality of drugs coming from a facility is that we use import alerts. If we look at 2021, China and Latin America, where we had most of the import alerts, many of these import alerts are driven by refusal to be inspected or non-compliance with a 704A4 request. So these are situations where we send a request for document review and we don't hear from the manufacturer. Now, in situations where we have shortages or risk of shortages, we may decide to carve out one or more drugs from import alerts. In those situations, we ask the manufacturers to put in place additional safeguards, such as independent third-party testing and so on. Now, let me switch to inspections. After the 3.5 years of challenges during the pandemic due to limitations to travel, lockdowns, and etc., I'm happy to say that we have turned the corner and we are getting back to a business as usual when it comes to our inspection program. This includes both surveillance inspections and getting back to the pre-pandemic cadence, as well as pre-approval inspections. Very recently, in the May timeframe, we were also able to get back into China after a very long hiatus due to lockdowns in that country, and so we have conducted a number of inspections in China over the course of May, and we hope that we will be able to continue towards a path of sort of normal operations even in China. Now, what have we seen in inspections when we started getting into the facilities following some unavoidable longer intervals between inspections during the pandemic? We have seen problems with microbial contamination, some of them very serious, that have led to blindness in some cases and very severe events, including lethal outcomes. We have seen a contamination with poisons such as diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol, leading to, luckily not in the US, but in other parts of the world, to many deaths, including children. We have seen refusal of inspections or failure to respond to requests for records. We continue to see some, in some cases, very serious issues when it comes to data integrity and record retention, including willful destruction of records. And we're also seeing similar trends before the pandemic, but in some cases amplified, such as inadequate controls when it comes to aseptic manufacturing, cleaning and prevention of cross-contamination, facility design and maintenance, and so on. Now, what we're also continuing to see is, in some instances, some inconsistency when it comes to maintaining CGMP requirements. What we would like to see is what you see in the chart to the left. We would like to see manufacturing facilities always being above the minimum standards for CGMP compliance, and being able to obviously have good inspections and maintain product quality in a consistent way. However, what we unfortunately see in a number of facilities is a lot of ups and downs, and situation where a facility may go from a very good inspection to a very bad inspection, an OAI classification, import alerts, and etc. And when we see that, this is a sign of lack of sort of attention and focus on maintaining a robust quality system that will then ensure the product quality over the long term. And so how do we get to sustainable compliance? Well, there's two key elements to this that a manufacturer needs to have. And the first one is senior management oversight of facilities. There has to be a top-down focus and prioritization of compliance with GCP all the way up the chain of command in a company that pervades then down into the staffing of facilities. And that includes ensuring that there are ongoing controls and maintenance, ensuring that the appropriate amount of resources and are allocated to maintain infrastructure and to upgrade technology and so on. And then there's also needs to be a focus all the way from the top down on maintaining a robust quality management system throughout the life cycle of production, including having a reliable, structured approach to the investigation of quality deviations. So let me give you an example of a manufacturer that was able to turn the corner and from some very deep problems in their facility. This is a large multinational manufacturer of generics that had a number of recurring problems over years, including recalls, warning letter, third-party audits, and etc. And this firm was able to really completely change the way they operate by making some deep and transformational changes, including fundamental changes in their quality system that included improved quality system governance, greater oversight, and so on, as well as investments into facility designs and including replacing all lines with modern processing lines and so on. And so the outcome has been a state of sustainable compliance that is now approaching 10 years. I'm going to end with a call to action. What do we need to do to achieve sustainable compliance? As I mentioned earlier, the most important element is strong quality management oversight. We need senior management all the way up the hierarchy in a company to walk the talk, to hold themselves accountable for quality, and to hold their organizations accountable for quality. We also need to have well-designed facilities, equipment, and processes, and that entails ongoing investment in facilities and in equipment, and monitoring vigilantly the state of control of the facilities. And last but not least, we need to shift from a reactive mode to a proactive mode. And there are some companies that do this very well already. Then moving to a proactive mode to identify problems and remediate them in a continuous fashion, without waiting for FDA to walk into a facility and see lots of problems that may take longer to fix and may, in the meanwhile, impact the supply of drugs. And so, in conclusion, we all need to commit together across regulators, FDA, manufacturers to achieve this. And this conference is a really great step in having these conversations and these discussions and sharing information and experience to be able to collectively meet our goal of making sure that essential medicines are available for patients who need them. Thank you again for inviting me today, and I wish you a productive meeting going forward.